I cannot put into words how excited I was at this exact moment because I was getting a brand new in-box Stern Pinball, which is my first ever real pinball machine. And not only that, it was the one I had absolutely dreamed of. Hey guys, MichaelBtheGameGenie here. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Today, I'm going to tell you the story about how I finally got my dream pinball machine, my new in-box Stern Pinball. And I'm going to tell you more about it right after this. So that's right guys, in today's video I'm going to tell you about one of the coolest days of my life and probably the most exciting thing I've ever done in terms of home arcade or video game collecting of any nature. The biggest purchase I've ever made, a new in-box Stern Pinball. But before we get into that, I want to say thank you so much for checking out the video, guys. I always appreciate the support. If this is your first time to the channel, you like what you see, go ahead, subscribe, click the bell for notifications. All that YouTube stuff. So anybody who's been watching me for a while now knows that it was at this point when I received my Arcade 1-Up Bally Williams Attack from Mars pinball machine, virtual pinball machine, that I immediately fell in love with pinball. Now, while this was virtual pinball and not exactly the best experience, it was still really good. The machine felt really good. The graphics on screen might not have been so good, and some of the games were a little wonky, but I fell in love when this became the most used machine in my home arcade. Flash forward to just about a year later, I was actually on an episode of the Console Kits podcast where we were both discussing how our love of pinball has evolved from just enjoying the virtual pinball tables that we had from the home arcade companies to maybe wanting something a little more robust. We both talked about how we would love to eventually get a real pinball table. However, one of the drawbacks of a real pinball table, of course, they were so price restrictive. So it seemed merely like a pipe dream back when we did this podcast. So time went by, I was planning on saving up and finally making my purchase of a Stern pinball table, or even looking at possibly getting a secondhand table, but I was really drawn to Stern. And I started following videos on it, watching everything, and I heard all these rave reviews for the Godzilla pinball table. And everybody was saying it was probably the best pinball of all time, which made me really interested because I grew up a huge fan of Godzilla. In fact, I introduced my niece and nephew to Godzilla. I have all the movies downstairs. I just recently found out they're all on Tubi in Canada here as well. So I'm a huge fan of that IP. I heard the table was so good, I needed to know more about it. But unfortunately, there is just nowhere to go play pinball here in Newfoundland where I live. There's literally nowhere to go. We have one place that has modern Stern machines, which is the Rec Room, which is a modern day Redemption arcade attached to the movie theater, and they only have 2 pinball machines. They have a Deadpool Pro, which is awesome, but in really bad shape, and the glass has come out of it. It's been replaced by a piece of plexi. It's completely clouded over. The other machine they have is Guardians of the Galaxy Pro. I don't like that one as much, but I haven't put that much time into it. So there was just nowhere to go check it out. And if I'm going to make such a huge investment in a pinball table, I definitely want to check it out first, right? Well, shortly after that, I got in touch with a local pinball collector here who had been promising to take me up to his place to show me his Medieval Madness, which I was in love with, of course, talking about my Bally Williams Arcade 1-Up table. He said, you got to come out and check out the real one. I reached out to him again and said, I'd love to come up, and he said, sorry, I actually sold my Medieval Madness, but I think you'll really like what I've replaced it with. So I went up to his house. He had 3 new Stern tables, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Jurassic Park, and of course Godzilla. And he let me play and film my experience. And I immediately fell in love with Godzilla. Of course, they were all awesome, but Godzilla was the one that I really fell in love with. Shortly after that, some of you guys in the home arcade space may remember the trip we took to Chicago to visit iArcade and, of course, go check out Galloping Ghost. And, of course, one of my favorite spots there was Galloping Ghost Pinball, because I got to go and check out some of my favorite pinball tables of all time. I'm a huge horror movie fan, and you can tell the guys at Galloping Ghost have the horror theme down, as well as they had some of the tables I've always wanted to check out, like Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt, Freddy, A Nightmare on Elm Street, which was probably my most wanted classic table previous to playing Godzilla, my most wanted pinball machine. So I got to go check that out. But of course, the main attraction when we were there was, of course, Godzilla. And we spent the majority of our time hanging out, playing Godzilla, playing tournaments. It was awesome. So after my experience in Chicago, I came home and I knew one thing for certain: as God is my witness, I was somehow, by hook or crook, getting a real pinball machine. And if I could, if there was one available, it was going to be Godzilla. So of course, I started researching Canadian distributors, seeing if anybody had Godzilla available. That was when I discovered a company called Player One Amusement Group. They have offices out of Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, maybe some other places I'm not familiar with. I checked out their website, and sure enough, when going to check out the pinball machine, they did in fact list Godzilla Premium as one of their available tables. So I reached out and asked them how much it would cost, and found out it was all the monies. And I also found out they did not have a payment plan in place, and I would need to have the cash up front. So it was at this point that my pinball machine dream almost died, because let's be honest here, in order for me to actually get this machine, purchase it, plus get it shipped to my home with tax, would cost roughly around $15,000, and I would have to have all that money up front. There was no way in my mind I could reconcile being able to save up that much money within a time frame that this pinball table would still be available. So I kind of gave up my dream. I said, I'm not going to be able to get a Godzilla Premium or a Godzilla pinball machine. It's just not possible. Fast forward until just after Christmas, and then something changed in my life, and I decided I was going to make this happen. Of course, I had to move some stuff around in my house. I now had 2 kids. We have a big house, but not enough room for everybody, so I ended up losing my home arcade to make space for my kids, and I just didn't have room for, the 35 plus arcade 1-ups anymore. So I decided what I was going to do was I was going to give up the room, sell off some of these arcade 1-ups, and if possible, reach out to Player One Amusements and see if they still had a Godzilla Premium in stock. So as you guys know already from the beginning of the video, this story has a very happy ending, as when I reached out to Player One, had my cash in hand, they did in fact have a Godzilla Premium in stock, and if I ordered it at that point, it could be at my house delivered within 2 to 4 weeks, which is phenomenal, because most pinball machines right now, if you order them, there's sometimes up to a 9-month waiting period. But I could get my hands on my Godzilla Premium within 2 to 4 weeks, and sure enough, just over 2 weeks later, the delivery man showed up at my house. And after a rigorous, nightmarish process of lifting a 300-pound pinball machine down a flight of stairs and into my basement game room, I finally had a Godzilla Stern Pinball Machine in my home. So the first thing I want to talk about is the art and theme of this table. And of course, like I told you earlier, I'm a huge Godzilla fan. I've been watching these movies all my life. I love Godzilla. almost every single iteration of Godzilla. Not so much the Matthew Broderick movie. But I love Godzilla, and especially classic Godzilla, and this table is an absolute love letter to that. You take a look at the art, and this is done by Zombie Yeti, who does, in my opinion, some of the nicest art on the Stern Pinball tables, in the Stern Pinball lineup. Seems like he's working a lot with Keith Elwin recently, and for good reason. He did an amazing job on this table. The colors are absolutely beautiful. The art depicting the classic kaiju is amazing, and you've got King Ghidorah all over the table. It's fantastic. I absolutely love the look of the table. Then you move to the playfield, and again, it's the exact same beautiful art. Everything just absolutely pops off this table. The colors are beautiful, and of course the light show that comes up is simply amazing. This table is a work of art. So if you were wondering if I was so concerned about the price, and I'm admittedly a pinball novice, and of course I don't know how to fix these machines. I know the pros have a lot less moving parts. They're a lot easier to maintain and keep running. Why in God's name would I go with the more expensive premium? So what I came down to was what the premium had to offer with the different features, figures, and mechs. First off is the figure of MechaGodzilla. Instead of getting this weird standee, you actually have the physical MechaGodzilla toy with the magnet in it, and of course, when you hit your MechaGodzilla multi-ball, the amazing light show that goes off, and seeing your pinball stuck to his chest through that mechanism is a very special feature, but that's not even the biggest one. Of course, the biggest and most important mech is the collapsing building. The building is the big shot of this pinball table. Think about the middle shot in Attack from Mars, the ball going into that spaceship, or even Medieval Madness, the ball going into the castle, and then removing the castle and not having that working there kind of takes away from the whole game. And that's the exact same way I felt about Godzilla. Without the moving building and that experience, I just felt like something would be missing from the joy and excitement I got from playing the premium table and all the different locations I was at. Then, of course, last but not least, you have the breaking bridge mech. This thing is super cool, as well as the bridge will come apart during gameplay. Sometimes it will drop shots. Other times the bridge just does this weird dance and then falls apart, and you get bridge attack multi-ball. It's so super cool, and all of these features were necessary, and I did not feel that I could buy them after the fact if I went and got the Pro, or it would be economically sensible. I had to have them for my overall pinball experience. So now, guys, I want to talk about the gameplay with Godzilla, and specifically Godzilla Premium, and this is another reason this table was so important to me. I, by no means, am an expert pinball player. For anybody who's watched me, I still don't nudge. I just haven't got the hang of it yet. I still have to learn. So I am truly a pinball novice. And a lot of tables can be difficult, can be hard to shoot, can be hard to really enjoy for even the most seasoned pinball players. But the great thing about Godzilla is the fact that it's such an easy table for novices and, inexperienced players like myself to pick up and play. You can rack up a bunch of points. You can play really fun, enjoyable games at that low skill level. But at the same time, as your skill increases, the gameplay modifies as well. As you get better, you'll find out new shots, new modes, the way everything works, and you'll start increasing your scores and changing the way you play, and the experience becomes even more fun at that point. There's just nothing that isn't great about this table, in my opinion. By no means am I the kind of person that is going to give a full pinball review. I am not qualified. Everybody said, I can't wait to see your review of this table. I can't do a review, guys. There's so many great people out there. Straight down the middle, Carrie Hardy, so many great pinball channels. Go watch them for reviews, because when they start talking about, well, there's some problems with the code, I have no friggin' idea what they're talking about. But what I can tell you is this thing is super fun. All the extra bonus features, the shot selection you can make, the actual story of how the game works, fighting the monsters and knowing when to hold off from getting your MechaGodzilla multi-ball right before you go into your kaiju battle so you can maximize your points, trying to get that imposter battle so you can bring Rodan in to double your score. All these little tips and tricks that I'm picking up as I go keep making this experience so much more fun. I can play this for hours upon hours non-stop. It always has that one more game feel to me, and I'm just absolutely in love with this table. So anyways, guys, that's my story of how I made my dream come true. I finally got my dream pinball machine, Stern Pinball's Godzilla Premium. It's no longer ranked #1 on Pinside. It has been replaced by Foo Fighters. Foo Fighters is the new #1, but in my mind, I haven't played Foo Fighters. Godzilla is still the tops. It's at least the tops in my collection, mainly because it's the only pinball machine I own. Now that I have it, does this mean that I'm going to start collecting pinball machines? Maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of other pinball machines I would like to buy, but let's be honest, they are price restrictive. Like, it's super expensive. Even if you go with the pro level, here in Canada, it'll still cost me $11,000 to $12,000 to bring a pro to my house new. So I've got to be careful. Now, I'm also considering doing some mods to this table, which I do want to talk about pretty quickly. This is actually really super convenient timing for me to be putting out this video and talking about a future video doing mods to this table, because Stern just officially announced the official Godzilla pinball accessories. So we've got that Mothra egg knob, that's been out before, the King Ghidorah shooter blades, which are out, the Art blades, which is something I think that is an addition I'm going to do. Not mentioned in this video, of course, is a shaker motor, which actually I gotta say a huge thank you to the Rexer Show, gave me some advice on what to do about a shaker motor. And of course, last but not least, they finally officially unveiled the Godzilla topper. It sits at $1,000 US. I don't know if I'm going to pick this one up. I don't know if it's robust enough to add. I'm certainly excited, but I look at it at $1,600 Canadian to actually add this to my collection. I just don't know if I can justify it. I mean, let's be honest, guys, it's $1,600 by the time it's done. There's a Canadian retailer, Nitro Pinball. They've had 6 in stock the other day. They're all sold now, but they're taking more pre-orders with many in stock. It's $1,400 Canadian. That's the exchange rate. $42 shipping, which is great. The shipping is really good. But then, of course, with the tax, it comes to $1,656. And I look at that. I really like Tales from the Crypt. There's one here available locally, and that's over 1/4 of what it would cost me to buy Tales from the Crypt. So I'm looking at it, do I want to add a topper, or do I want to put that money aside for a future pinball table? You guys decide. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments, what do you think of Godzilla Stern Pinball Premium being added to my collection? Do you guys think I made the right decision? Do you think this is a cool table? Have you played it? What are your thoughts? Let me know. Also, what mods do you think I should do to this table? If you're a pinball guy, what are some necessary modifications and add-ons I need to make? I know a lot of people in the Godzilla chat rooms are saying the Neon Tokyo sign is the best, absolute best mod that you can do for it. There's also, of course, other mods. The shaker motor, I think that's going to be a must. Really like the art blades. And it's funny because I used to look at Cool Toys videos and I was like, I don't know if I would add art blades. But now that I have my own pinball machine, art blades were like the most essential thing I thought of right away. So I think I'm going to get the art blades. Don't know about the topper yet, but we'll see. Look forward to a future video to see what modifications I'm going to make to this table. Anyways, guys, just want to say thank you so very much for watching. This is Michael B. the Game Genie, and I'll talk to you next time.